Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Hey, that wasn't too bad. I am thankful for having Ricky here last week because he reminded me of how cool you all are. So I appreciate it that you guys are cool, okay? And it's cool to be here. And that I need to be excited and passionate because you guys are here. And we have come to worship together, to know God together. And that's really awesome. And I'm so excited, really, to be able to do that. Now, I'm not all that passionate a person. You won't see me jumping over bonfires, walking on coals, swinging from tall trees, unlike Kathy, who likes to swing from tall things and ride zip lines and things like that. So I'm just not quite that passionate. I'm a little more down to earth than someone like Kathy, who just is always out there, always wearing her heart on her sleeve, right? Okay. But today I'm just overcome by this thankfulness. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate being wrong. I made so many bulletins and it wasn't enough. So it's okay being wrong, I will trust what God wants to do. Still kind of working on faith, but I'm taking a little bit of a different direction here for the next few weeks. And the first thing I want to talk about is my dilapidated garage I had when I was growing up. Doesn't that seem like a good faith thing? Dilapidated garages. Now, some of you may have garages like that. We should have a picture, boom, up there. All right, there it is. That isn't my dilapidated garage, but it's a pretty good facsimile. I had a basketball hoop on the side of it. It was about that low too, because I didn't want to have to jump up in the air to do anything. Just want to keep it nice and low. So, but I had this dilapidated garage, and my parents would park their car in there. Had one of those old garage or shed doors that you would take, and it was metal, and you go, and you slide it across instead of like it coming down, and then you open it. It was awesome and rusty, and you were always afraid the roof was going to fall on you. But during the day when I was younger and the car was not in the garage, it was kind of my castle, if you will. It was my place to feel like, man, this is the Justice League. Did anybody ever watch the Justice League back in the day? They had this little place where they would all come to, and this was my place where all the superpowers happened. It was the G.I. Joe fort that I had to defend from all the Cobra invaders. So I don't know how many times there had to be, millions of people that attacked and tried to take that place, but this one-man army stopped them, as a 5, 6, 7-year-old. I made sure they did not take over that garage, because that was the center of freedom, okay? So just so you guys know, I helped you out. Because if the garage would have fallen, y'all would have been in trouble. But I played in that garage a lot. It had windows that were broken out. It had like 2 windows that were still there, plastic covering things to keep the water from falling on it from the roof that was leaking all over the place. But it was my garage. It had... You'd walk in and there were so many holes in the ceiling, you'd see little pinpoints of light on the floor. So yeah, one of those kind of places. But one thing that I found in there as I was exploring were these things called spider webs. Now these spider web things were kind of exciting when the sun shone through and lit them up. They were pretty neat. They were these works of art, and you could catch yourself staring at one. I bet you've had it, you just kind of, wow, it's pretty cool. I could never make something like that. Now some of you ladies that do, your quilting, your crocheting, your sewing, those kind of things can make things way better probably than spider webs. But I caught myself looking at it and imagining, the spider coming eating me and things like that. But anyway, but it's a really cool thing, these spider webs, especially when they're lit up in the sunlight that's coming through, a broken window or whatever. It seems that whenever I walk around, I continue to have this superpower that I found I did as a kid. And that superpower is finding spider webs. I tend to find them because a lot of times in my life I found myself doing this thing with groups of people, going first. You know that if you are a person who is going first and you are outside walking around in forested areas, you might be good at finding spider webs too. Because it tends to happen that spiders make this awesome web, they're looking to catch food, and then you're walking along and you walk right through it. My head especially was really good at finding spider webs because many of my friends were shorter than I was. So I was always the one, even if I wasn't first, that would get the spider web in the head. Anybody ever get a spider web in the face and you're like, man, what in the world? Spider webs in the face are kind of uncomfortable. They cause you to do something like, right? That's what they cause you to do. You're like trying to get it off you, it's all over the place. And you don't even notice the stuff that's in your hair. Maybe your friend will tell you if they're with you, but sometimes they're just like, I'm going to let it go, okay? Right? Sometimes they're nice and help you get it out, and you look like, monkeys picking little bugs off each other or something. But you get spider web, and you can kind of feel it. And, you hate that, and you hope that the spider wasn't home when you walk through it, right? I agree. I don't really want a spider crawling on me. And spiders are not my thing. Some of you in here, you might be like, oh, I'll let a tarantula crawl over me. Not this guy. I'm not super, I can smush him, that's okay, but I'm not going to pick one up and hug it or anything. Well, these spiders have actually never captured me, and though I have walked through many a spider web, they kind of still scare me a little bit. I feel like when I was younger, there was some movie on that backwards TV station, that super station, that if there wasn't a sport on, it would put these weird movies from 1960s on there, where giant spiders or giant ants or birds would come and get you. And I always remember the man-eating spiders, okay? Did any of you ever grow up thinking about man-eating spiders? They were not my favorite thing, okay, to think about. But I did once in a while think of them. And I didn't want them to eat me. It was not my favorite thing. So if I had the option, I tried to leave spider webs alone. Because, I'll be honest, I always thought there was this union of bugs. Okay, and you step on one, or it might have been like the mob, you step on one and they all start talking to each other and they're going to get you when you go to sleep at night, you know what I mean? All the bugs are going to come right in through your window and get you. So I was kind of afraid of that, so I kind of tried to let them be, but it's fun to step on the ants and use your little magnifying glass on. Anyway, so I know none of you worry about spiders, I'm sure. But in Scripture, there doesn't seem to be a better description of kind of sinfulness or temptation than a spider's web. It's always out there waiting for us to walk into it. You're not really thinking about it. You're going through life and you're like, whoa. All of a sudden you're sinning. You're like, oh, get that off me. And I think that is very appropriate, a very appropriate way to look at spiders. Spider webs are beautiful, they're well designed, they're pretty to look at until you fall into one. And then it's kind of scary, especially if there are man-eating spiders. You don't want to be there. You want to get rid of spider webs as quickly as you can, but they take us off our game. If we're heading in one direction, we have to pause, at least for a moment, and get that spider web out of our hair, off of our face. It can be a monkey wrench in our plans. Anybody here ever have to, it's Sunday morning, you go out to your car in the garage and you get a spider web and you're like, oh, I gotta go back in and fix my hair. Anybody ever? I don't know if I've ever done that, but if I was going on a date maybe, but Anyway, these spider webs cause us to stop for a moment. Now, in thinking of sin, these spider webs, you might be like, how do you get faith from this? Well, interestingly enough, this writer of Hebrews, writing to these Jewish new Christians, in Hebrews 11, we call that the Hall of Faith, where we have all of these people listed, talks about their great faith, and the faith they had in the promise that God had given them, that a Messiah was coming. And these people had great faith. They faced all of these hard things, and they conquered them. They stuck with it. And then we come to Hebrews 12, which, in case you were wondering, comes right after Hebrews 11, which is where all those people just were. And it has this awesome word from Hebrews 12, 1 through 4. In verse 1 it says, therefore. Okay? It's talking about all of these awesome faith people, and it starts out with this word, therefore. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy set before him, endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Verse 3. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. We have a great cloud of witnesses. There are these people watching, says the writer of Hebrews. All these people he had just talked about. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Ruth, Moses. All of these people are watching. They've gone on before. We have these people that have made it. And we can look and go, I can make it too. Although when you think of like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, these Jews are probably like, whew, those are some big people to live up to. Those are some big shoes to fill. But the writer of Hebrews wants you to know that people have done it before. They have made it all the way. They have made it to their reward, and they kept the faith. Oh, he especially talks about prophets at the end of chapter 11, who faced imprisonment, death, and being sawed in two. What a good time, right? No, not really. All these great people, they had faced this tough opposition, and they didn't lose their faith. Now, these new Christians, followers of Jesus, need to know that these people are there because persecution is coming. Because hard days are in the future. Right now, they probably don't have Caesar Augustus anymore. I'm sorry, I don't remember who the next Caesar was, but they have these wonderful Caesars coming up soon by the name of Nero and by the name of Caligula. These wonderful people who really love Christians. Not really. These wonderful Roman emperors who like to imprison Christians, who like to blame things on Christians, who like to use Christians to light up their garden parties or throw to the lions. Hard days are ahead for these new Christians. It's about 400 or so years before Constantine comes on the scene and the Holy Roman Empire is born. But these guys took on, this cloud of witnesses took on some hard things. And the writer of Hebrews is trying to encourage them to maintain their faith, to run the race, to look forward to the reward that Jesus Christ has. I think a lot of times we don't apply such a warning to ourselves. We don't look at ourselves and go, wow, life's going to be really hard. It's going to be really difficult. I don't know if we're going to be able to hold on to our faith. How many people here this morning got up and said, man, I don't know if I'll be able to maintain my Christianity today. I am afraid the authorities will come into my house and take everything I have, throw me in prison, and maybe kill me. How many of you were afraid of that when you woke up this morning? No? I don't see too many people that were afraid of that. Maybe Cody, but that was just a dream, buddy. That was just a dream.
It was a nightmare.
There is such a blessing that we have, this freedom to worship, to come here, to print more bulletins, to worship God together and listen to His Word, and sing His Word. But something here is present that is present in all generations, in all places, in all ages, and it's sin. Sin is still present. And it is just as real now, today, no matter how much makeup, or as Ron would say, oil of Olay, we put on our sin. It is still there, even though we might be able to mask it with our nice cars, our pretty homes, our, Dirt Devil vacuum cleaners, or Dyson vacuum cleaners. As long as we have a good vacuum cleaner, we'll be okay. But sin is still there. He talks about this sin entangling us. Like a spider web, we get into it and it wraps itself around us. And it holds people down. It would hold these Hebrews who were new Christians back. If they weren't watching for it, if they weren't paying attention to it. It gets all over us. Sin slows us down and even stops us. There are many times, I bet, for all the times that you've run into a spider web and noticed it, how many more times do you think you've run into a spider web and not noticed it? I bet there's a lot of times that we don't even notice the spider webs that we run through, that get on us. And the only time they get off of us is when we take a shower later. This sin that is kind of like a spider web halts our forward progress. This term that the writer in Hebrews uses to kind of talk about it is this idea of it's so easily entangling us. I have been a witness to many of those rooms. Now, most of you probably don't know what those rooms are. Some of you are nurses or familiar with the medical profession and probably think maybe it's an operating room, maybe it's a recovery room. No, see, if there was someone here who is part of AA or NA, they would know what those rooms are. Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous have these places that you can go where you can have a meeting. That means you get together with like-minded people who are struggling with addiction, who need a place to talk about it and get rid of it. I guarantee you if I said, those places have people who have been entangled by addictions, they go, yeah, that's us. I had the privilege, the honor to be present in those rooms because they don't let a bunch of outsiders, like if you guys just decided to walk into an AA meeting or an NA meeting, you might not get any coffee, okay? They might not be really fond of having a lot of outsiders in there. Matter of fact, I know they're not. They weren't fond of me being there, but I was there supporting some kids that I had to take there who were part of an alcoholic and narcotics addiction program that I was working in. But I had to go with them to supervise them and all that kind of good stuff. Make sure they didn't get hopped up on too much coffee while they were in there. So I was with these kids in these rooms where these people were getting untangled. They were taking off this sin and just putting it out there on the table. Because all the other people out there had the same kind of spider webs, had the same kind of junk they were taking off themselves to get free. Many of those meetings I've been in were pretty good church services too. They knew that it was hard. And they also had a cloud of witnesses. That was part of what the meeting was about. For somebody to stand up in front and say, hey, I've struggled. I was there. Let me tell you my story, matter of fact, and how it happened in my life. That addiction got the best of me. That I got entangled in it. And I've always thought that it isn't a bad idea to have a little more of expressing our entanglements in church than we do. Sin's point is to keep us from persevering in our race. And that is, sin just wants to obscure Jesus Christ from us. It wants us to be distracted. It would rather have us pay attention to the spider webs on us and trying to get them off than have us continue to look at the goal. In Romans 14, verse 23, which Emily read part of, it says, I know how great, it says, anything that is not from faith is sin. When I came here to Kokomo, when I was a youth pastor, and probably while I was pastor of this church, I had an issue with anger. Now, a lot of you probably didn't know I had an issue with anger. Because I stand up here, I can put myself together okay. I can get the spider webs off for a minute. But I tell you what, with that ridiculous old house I have, the things that fall apart and the things that I tried to put back together and could not get to work right, I had some anger. And my dog knows that I had some anger. Because there were some very close to kicking the dog seriously that I had issues with. I had difficulty in expressing my anger without, I never really threw anything because I always hated the idea of having to pay for whatever I broke. You know what I mean? But the dog would probably survive getting kicked a little bit. But I had issues with anger. I got very angry, especially when I couldn't fix the pipes and they still leaked and I couldn't do this or that and couldn't take care of things that I was hoping I could take care of as a homeowner. I was angry. My wife will let you know that I got surly at some points and she would prefer not to deal with me. But over the years, I've talked to God about it. And over the years, I learned something that has really helped me, and that is this weird idea called confession. And you might go, Joe, obviously we confess our sins. Do we? How many people really take the time to confess? I don't know. But what I decided to do was each night, as my prayer at night, was to confess my sin. Was to look at what I did during that day, kind of like an AA kind of thing, take a fearless moral inventory. What had I done that day that I didn't want to be doing the next day? That I needed to put before God and go, here, God, take this sin. Get rid of it. Take it off of me so that I can be untangled. And I claimed victory over anger. I don't really get angry that much anymore. And it's weird because I could tell you probably a year or two ago, I would still, when I felt myself getting angry, I'd go, I like that anger. It feels good. I want to be angry. I want to be mad. But I haven't felt that in a while. And I praise God for moving that further and further away from me. But do we recognize what we have done wrong during the day and gone, hey, that was wrong. I should not live that way. That's sin and I want to get rid of it. It's the same kind of thing I do with my selfishness today. I go, God, I want less of that selfishness. I do little things like I built an awesome computer. I don't know, when was Alex born? Like 5 years ago. Built this awesome computer so that I could have my computer and my time to play video games. I still play video games, but I haven't resurrected that computer. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to start selling it on eBay. Anybody need a computer? There are things that I move away from because I look at the goal and I understand how important it is to be near Christ. sin keeps us from God, and it's worth resisting whatever it takes. Now, something that came to me recently through this study is this idea in Hebrews 12, at the end of the passage that we read, that talks about resisting. It says, "You have not resisted to the point of shedding blood." And this idea to me is saying something like that if I was really serious about avoiding sin, it might cost me some blood. Now, if something costs you some blood, would that be pretty serious? I mean, some of us, like myself, we go to these things called blood draws, right? And they check all your levels of all these different things. Now, that costs you some blood. I don't know how serious it is. But if they found something in it that, oh, this is too high, or that's too low, or this is wrong, you'd go, whoa, now it is serious. And it costs you some blood to find it out. How hard do we work at things that cost us blood? Some saying you've probably heard or said is that something costs you blood, sweat, and tears. That talks about your hard work, right? That talks about the work that you put in to grow something, to get it built. Cost blood, sweat, and tears. Matthew 5:30 talks about sin in this way. "And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell." That's kind of straightforward, a little drastic. So I'd appreciate it if nobody was cutting off their hands, gouging out their eyes today. Okay, just let's move away from sin. Let's not try to do self-mutilation, but let's work hard at moving away from sin. Perhaps sin is worth taking seriously and getting it out of our lives. And don't even start looking at me going, "Joe, what sin? I don't have any sin, I'm okay. It's all right, Joe, I don't need to resist sin. These webs that are around me, these webs that I like, that I want to, oh, isn't this pretty? It got on me, but I like it. I like that piece of sin." Folks, we don't need to trade that for hell. Okay? We need to understand, and I want us to think about that the cost of this web that we're in is hell. Don't let sin entangle you. Unentangle yourself. That is the duty of a Christian, to move beyond, "Oh, I've got lots of spider webs on me. That's okay, though. I'm still saved, going to heaven because I know Jesus." Okay? But the result of a regenerate heart, a heart that's been lived in by the Holy Spirit, is we go, this is terrible. I don't want it on me. We want to get rid of that because we recognize the goal is to be with Christ. Finally, in our struggle, let us keep in mind that the person who showed us how to struggle against sin was Jesus Christ. He didn't cut anything off. He didn't chop any of his body parts off. He still had them. He had a couple of holes in them. and he died, so he had that in his struggle against sin. And he sacrificed all that he had for us, so that we didn't any longer have to be entangled. We were free. We didn't need that mess anymore. Folks, get rid of the mess. If you can't even tell you have a mess, you need to start working on confession, working on taking those things, laying them before God and going, "Hey, I don't want this web anymore. I don't want to be entangled. I don't want to be stuck." The victory over sin is a free gift from Jesus Christ. You can take that free gift and go, "Yes, I have it." But your duty is to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Folks, there is a balance between these spider webs we walk through and then need to get off of ourselves, our work, our part, our desire for God, and the work that He does. His work is totally sufficient for redeeming you. But our work shows our love. So the truth is that the shedding of our own blood is not just so we can be free of spider webs. Resisting sin to the point of shedding our own blood isn't because of how strong sin is or how hard the struggle is. The resistance that we have to sin in shedding our blood has to do with love. The question is, how much do you love Jesus? How much do you appreciate what He did for you? Is it worth the struggle against sin? And is that struggle worth against shedding this blood that we have inside us, or worth the hard work that it takes to get away from those webs for eternity with Christ in heaven?